Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, kicking off the anime, we start in a world dependent on magic, where travel is done by brooms and objects can levitate and be created from magic. Since magic was believed to be a gift from God, people's futures are predetermined by their magic capabilities. But as we dive deep into a forest, we see our MC nonchalantly working out. In a hut in the forest, we see an old wizard, Regro Berndeed, who lives with his strong son, Mash Berndeed, capable of tearing down the hut's door. As Regro scolds Mash for being so heavy-handed, Mash apologizes for destroying his father's home, offering to fix things. Happy to see his son take responsibility for his actions, Regro only grows more frustrated when he spots his son attempting to pound the door back into position, ultimately snapping the door into pieces. Moving on to another topic, Mash reports that he's finished his assigned workout for the day, but wonders why he has to constantly improve his physical body. Regro dreads having to explain that Mash has no magic powers, instead states that he needs to head somewhere. Before Regro leaves, Regro warns Mash to never leave the hut nor venture into town. As Regro leaves, Mash suddenly pulls out a flyer, beginning to sprint towards the town, stating that his hunger is more important than his father's warning. With his hood up, Mash struts through town, spotting all sorts of townsfolk using magic, but Mash notes how most things can still be done without magic. Spotting what he came into town for, Mash heads to a sweet store, asking for 7 cream puffs, accidentally handing the cashier some crumpled coins. Apologizing for getting too excited, Mash nonchalantly straightens out the bent coins, shocking the cashier with his monstrous strength. Before Mash can leave, his hood suddenly flies off, revealing his face and terrifying the townsfolks, but before anyone can say anything, Mash leaves. Elsewhere at a police station, we see a blonde police officer reading up on a second-year student of the Easton Magic Academy, Rain Ames, receiving the title of Divine Visionary. Due to the new title, Rain will be promoted to a noble along with 1 billion Lond coins and further rewards. Jealous of Rain's life, the police officer turns his attention to a man that had been arrested for stealing, but before the police officer can silence the criminal, he gets a report of an unmarked person spotted in town. Back with Mash, he continues to walk through town, nibbling on his cream puffs and wondering what his father's warning would have meant. Just then, Mash accidentally bumps into a drunk police officer, who begins blaming and scolding Mash for his boring and underpaid job as an officer. Attempting to mend the situation, Mash offers the police officer a cream puff, but the drunk officer believes Mash is looking down on him, knocking the cream puff Mash was eating out of Mash's hands. Confused as to why the police officer is still yelling, Mash tears off the police officer's clothes, offering to clean and return the clothes, but this only freaks out the officer. Just then, Brad, the blonde police officer, appears, calling out to the drunk officer, Terry, asking Terry to explain himself. Upon laying eyes on Mash, Brad realizes that the kid is strange, as Mash is stuffing his face with cream puffs. Before Brad can ask Mash any questions, Regro appears, grabbing Mash, only to disappear. Seeing as this may be his opportunity to be promoted, Brad takes out his wand, summoning a bird to follow after Regro and Mash. Back at the hut, Regro scolds Mash for disobeying his orders, but when Mash apologizes, Regro can't help but ease back on his words. As punishment, Regro states that Mash is to repeat his training from this morning, but before Mash leaves, he hands his remaining cream puffs to Regro. Thinking about how old Mash is now, Regro believes that they'll have to move to avoid people from discovering Mash, but just then, the police break into Regro's hut, demanding to know where Mash is. Cutting to Mash, we see that he's able to blitz through his workout in 5 minutes, returning back to the hut, but before he enters, Mash overhears several police interrogating his father. Brad states that people without magic are considered useless in society, so it's the police's job to get rid of them. As Brad attempts to torture Regro to get him to reveal where Mash is, Regro refuses, forcing Brad to further torture Regro. Apparently, Regro himself had always had a weak affinity for magic as well, being shunned and ostracized his entire life due to his lack of magic affinity. One night whilst Regro decided he would take his own life, he was suddenly stopped, discovering Mash as a baby, giving Regro a reason to live once more. With Brad continuing to threaten Regro, Regro cries for Mash to flee and leave him, but this allows Brad to deduce that Mash is nearby. As Brad continues to kick Regro in the stomach, Regro attempts to grab hold and stall Brad, but seeing that the old man is useless, Brad begins casting a spell. Just then, Mash smashes through the front entrance, instantly knocking one of the 3 officers down. Following up, Mash grabs a hold of the drunk officer from before, slapping him silly, only to toss him aside as well. Wondering why Mash is still here, Regro hears that Mash had heard everything, but even still Mash refuses to leave his one family member behind. Turning to Brad, Mash states that he'll be sending Brad to hell, but Brad puts on a smirk, revealing that he used to be a security officer for the Bureau of Magic. With Mash standing in Brad's way, Brad begins channeling a powerful spell, a spell that supposedly scared off a powerful dragon. Unleashing his Nalkampa spell, Brad is in disbelief, having just spotted Mash slapping the spell into the ground. Casting an even greater spell, Brad unleashes his Nalkampa Diagoras spell, but Mash easily redirects the spell with his hand, slapping it away. With each successive cast, Brad watches as Mash toys with his magic projectiles, messing around with them as if they were physical playing balls. Completely frozen in shock, Brad watches as Mash reaches down, grabbing a hold of Regros's wand. Believing that Mash had been hiding his magic power all this time, Brad conjures up a powerful spell shield, capable of blocking most magical spells, but out of nowhere, Mash tosses Regro's wand through Brad's spell shield, instantly shattering the shield. Falling to his knees in complete shock, Brad admits that he has never seen someone like Mash before, which makes Regro proud as the physical training is serving Mash really well. Coming up with an idea, Brad states that in exchange for leaving Regro and Mash alone, he asks that Mash join a magic academy. Brad intends to have Mash gain the title of Divine Visionary, where Mash will be seen as a god, and only then will Mash's magic less self be accepted and hopefully be able to change society. Sensing something off with the offer, Regro warns Mash to ignore Brad's words, but Brad adds that if Mash refuses, he along with the entire world will continue to hunt down magicless people like Mash, and as a result family members of the magicless like Regro would be harmed as well. With Brad offering to help aid Mash through school, Mash has no other choice, hence beginning his journey through magic school. With hundreds of students gathered at Easton Magic Academy, a school highly prestigious having produced several amazing pillars of the magic world, but it's quite known that less than 3% of applicants end up passing the exams. Up in one of the buildings, Professor Claude Lucci begins scanning through the students. Claude notes how there are the standard nobility students, students revising through their grimoires and students checking their magical equipment. Seeing as there is nothing that stands out, Claude suddenly is drawn to the sound of iron clanking, spotting Mash nonchalantly lifting heavy weights. Believed to be dreaming, Claude steps away from the window, but upon checking up on Mash, Claude gets annoyed, believing Mash is not taking the exam seriously. Following Mash, he notes how consuming protein within a 45-minute window of working out is ideal, but Claude suddenly also spots Brad and Regro pretending to be trees, but Brad and Regro believe that their camouflage is top tier and that they had drawn a marking on Mash's face to help him blend in. Just then, Claude reveals himself as today's entrance examiner, instantly catching the eyes of all the students, being ranked 7th among all the up-and-coming mages, having mastered countless advanced spells despite his youth. Happy to be praised, Claude waves his wand, instantly creating desk and exam papers for all students to take the written exam, assigning 30 minutes for students. As each of the students turn over the exam paper, they're horrified by the moving text, which Claude reveals will be their first test, as students need to dispel the magic in order to read and answer the questions. With Regro and Brad off to the side, they both believe that Mash is screwed, but as we follow Mash, we see him frustratedly crush his quill, ordering the text to stop moving, which surprisingly stops Claude's spell. Submitting his papers, Claude is stunned to see that Mash did indeed pass the written exam, also able to pass the magic tests by pretending to lift and levitate a boulder, even running on water. When Claude discovers that Mash has yet to fail, Claude gets infuriated, watching as Mash nonchalantly snacks on a cream puff. Conjuring up a maze, Claude states that students are to navigate their way out of the maze within 30 minutes, but the twist is that the maze is filled with traps. Cutting to Mash, we see him unfazed by the maze, but as he thinks about how he should solve the maze, he's suddenly interrupted by Lemon Irvine. Lemon asks Mash to team up, believing that it'll be faster for them to solve and work through the exam, which Mash agrees with. As the two begin moving through the maze, Lemon gets really unlucky, tripping over a small rock, accidentally drawing in demons and cursed hands and even falling into a hole. Hearing something off in the distance, Mash begins rushing over to the noise, but suddenly Lemon takes out her wand, casting a spell to bind Mash in place. Lemon reveals that she had deceived Mash, not wanting Mash to reach the goal, but states that she can't tell Mash why. Sadly, Mash states that he can't waste any more time, easily breaking out of Lemon's binding spell, only to run away. As Mash leaves Lemon, a dangerous sphinx-like creature appears behind Lemon, demanding Lemon answer its riddle. When Lemon attempts to attack the Sphinx with her wand, the Sphinx instantly disarms her, forcing Lemon to helplessly cry for help. With the Sphinx asking Lemon the riddle once more, Lemon can't help but sit there in shock, but before the Sphinx can strike Lemon down, Mash intervenes, instantly knocking the Sphinx out. Wondering why Mash had come back, even though she had deceived him, Lemon is touched to see that Mash feels sorry for her. Assessing the situation, Mash states that there isn't enough time to navigate the entire maze, opting to use a different method. Cutting to Claude, we see him proud of his maze exam, along with the various traps, monsters and students that he's placed in the maze, to purposely stop Mash from passing. Just then, various loud thumps can be heard, growing closer and closer, only for Mash to appear, having broken holes in the maze's wall, in order to make it to exit the maze. As a mysterious old man watches from above, all the students begin berating Mash for his idiotic way for solving the maze, but Mash can't help but get annoyed at the crowd yelling at him. Having heard enough, Lemon cries for the crowd to stop yelling, revealing that Claude had purposely ordered Lemon to stop Mash from exiting the maze, and in exchange Claude will help Lemon get into the school. Having been caught, Claude exerts his authority as a professor, stating that he has the option to do whatever he wants as the examiner. Taking out his wand, Claude reveals his potent magical aura, stating that he is going to fail both Lemon and Mash, daring Mash and Lemon to challenge him. In the blink of an eye, Mash approaches Claude, instantly snapping Claude's wand, but when Claude refuses to back down, the old man appears, revealed to be Headmaster Wahlberg. Wahlberg states that he'll now be taking over the exam, asking Claude to stand down as Wahlberg wishes to have a chat with Claude later. Starting the interview portion of the exam, Wahlberg teleports Mash in front of other wizards and witches, only to ask the reason for Mash applying to be a student. When Mash says he simply wants to live peacefully with his family, various witches and wizards scold Mash for the boring answer, but Wahlberg states that is a good answer. Moving on, Wahlberg wonders why Mash risked failing the exam in order to save Lemon, intrigued when Mash says that he would regret leaving her to fail. Digging deeper, Wahlberg notes how Mash acts before he thinks, asking Mash if he thought he would lose to the Sphinx or would fail to break through the walls, but Wahlberg is pleasantly amused to hear Mash will try until he finds a solution to problems that he faces. Getting serious, Wahlberg asks Mash what he would do if Mash were to encounter a creature far stronger than Mash. As an example, Wahlberg summons a terrifying monster as an example, revealing that the monster has extracted the soul of Regro into the doll, and in several seconds the monster will puncture the doll and kill Regro. Hearing this, Mash attempts to stop the monster's blade, but Wahlberg reiterates that he is far stronger than Mash, but before Wahlberg can ask Mash what Mash plans to do, everyone is shocked to see Mash place his hands below the monster's blade, puncturing and stopping the blade with his own hands. Turning to Wahlberg, Mash reasons that since the monster is a powerful summon, he states that Wahlberg will have trouble keeping it summoned for a while, choosing to defeat the monster by outlasting Wahlberg. Speechless at Mash's actions, Wahlberg states that he's aware that powerful people have the option to hurt and help people, but it seems that Mash is someone that strives to help others at the cost of his well-being. Removing the monster, Wahlberg apologizes for taking it too far, but Mash also apologizes for not answering Wahlberg's question, stating that if he had to face someone as powerful as Wahlberg himself, Mash would simply defeat Wahlberg with his fists. Just like that, Mash is officially enrolled as a student at Eastern Magic Academy, but upon taking his first class, Mash enrages the teacher, accidentally opening a lock by destroying it, instead of using magic. Seeing the teacher yell at Mash, Finn Ames notes how weird Mash is, praying to not get involved with him, as other students seem to have their eyes on him. As Finn heads to visit his dorm, he's shocked to see that he'll be roommates with Mash, surprised to see that Mash is quite normal. Seeing as this is the perfect time, Mash asks Finn how he can become the divine visionary, learning that students can earn gold coins from completion of tasks and exams around school, but notes that students can get expelled if their grades are poor. Check out one of our other videos on the screen or in the info card above. Subscribe, like and comment.